these aren't stupid billionaires. Like, they have money for a reason.
But it sort of goes back to what I've said about the Cubs. They're not the Pirates or Brewers, but they're just not the Dodgers, Yankees, or Red Sox. And under this ownership, they've fallen behind some of the other big major market teams because there are some limitations. Yeah, boys, I mean, I don't think I've heard Jed Hoyer use the word budget more times in one media session than he did just now. He must have said it 5 or 6 times. Bregman just did not fit into the budget that he eventually signed for. I think the Cubs made their most competitive offer, which was 4 years, around $120 million. They would not go a 5th year. I think a 5th year would have gotten it done. I can't tell you that for sure. I think at 5 and 150 or 155, it may have gotten it done. Instead, it's the 3 years at $40 million a year, and the Cubs would not do that. That would have pushed them well past the luxury tax and maybe left them very little money for July. However you want to break it down, it wasn't in their budget to go this far, and so he ends up with the Boston Red Sox. And the last point is, remember, I said this yesterday, this is something that came on their radar late in the offseason, not like November 1st. They thought they were in on Bregman, so it was a little bit of sort of icing on the cake to get him. But I will say the Cubs have been pretty opportunistic in the past, at least more than the smaller market teams, but not as much as maybe some of the other bigger market teams. And they won on Bellinger last year. They failed on Bregman this year.
Were they offering opt-outs?
Yes, they were absolutely offering opt-outs. What they were not offering was deferred money. So I don't think the number was going to get high enough where Bregman would have accepted deferred money. So I think that was part of it. Philosophically, it sounds like the Cubs and ownership do not believe in deferred money. I've mentioned a couple times on the air recently, like a piece I wrote on Christmas Eve, I think really rings true. Tom Ricketts is not really interested in a lot of money tied up past the next CBA, which ends after 2026. And certainly most of their actions this offseason have proven that. I think there was a reliever in Tanner Scott. They would have, that's a little bit of money past 26. And certainly Bregman may have been a little bit money past 26. But I don't think they want a lot tied up past the next CBA that isn't already tied up, like in Dansby Swanson. So, yeah, there are some philosophical limitations with the Cubs that I think other teams don't have. Think about the Red Sox. They were willing to do the deferral money, but they also have some limitations that just didn't apply to Bregman, where the Dodgers have, no limitations. So there are different layers to this. And, the Cubs are willing to spend. They're just not willing to spend like some of these other teams.
Well, they're not willing to spend, though. They're willing to spend at their rate. And you said you took the words right out of Jed's mouth. The quote I'm looking at here, philosophically, deferrals are something we've avoided. I look at deferrals as a benefit to use. Like Shohei Ohtani and all that deferred money. We see Bregman and all that deferred money. That seems like a loophole that you can take advantage of. Why do they see deferrals as a negative and not a positive?
Are they afraid that they won't have that money in 10 years?
I don't have to give you $40 million now. I can give you $33 million and then give you $7 million later. Money only. These aren't stupid billionaires. They have money for a reason.
Yeah, but it sort of goes back to what I've said about the Cubs. They're not the Pirates or Brewers, but they're just not the Dodgers, Yankees, or Red Sox. And under this ownership, they've fallen behind some of the other big major market teams because there are some limitations like deferrals. Why? I don't know. It's what I wrote about, I think, last month or just in December. There's just a little bit more of a bottom line feeling to the team than we had last decade. There's the private equity investments who have no say. They have no say, but they are there. They are part of the group. There's just a little bit more of a bottom line feel since COVID because of a lot of different reasons that we've talked about. They just aren't willing to operate at any sort of a loss. Other teams do. Let's make that clear. Other teams will operate at a loss. Now, the Mets have operated at a loss where Steve Cohen then just at the end of the year pulls out of his pocket and covers the losses. The Cubs will not operate at a loss, even if it's in a one-year cycle. They're just not there. So there are limitations put on by ownership because this is how they want to own the team. Where, again, the Pirates own a team that won't sign anybody, where the Dodgers own a team will sign everybody. So they're right. They're somewhere in the middle. I think Cubs fans expect them to be closer to the Dodgers and Mets than some of these other smaller market teams.
Do you think it's because they've been burned? Because they're paying Hayward deferral still John Lester, obviously, they didn't get burned there. He's a great pitcher, but they're still paying those guys in deferred money. If Hayward was better and had worked out, do you think that they'd be more likely to spend that deferred money? Or is Ricketts saying to Jed, well, I gave you guys money and you screwed up before, so I'm not giving you any more?
I don't think it's that. I think there was a moment in time around 2020 where that may have been the case. I think it's all these other layers that I mentioned. I don't think it's, he got burned on a player. I think he understands you get burned on players. Yeah. The nature of free agency is you're paying guys in their 30s when they should be paid in their 20s. But the Cub fans that are even like, oh, that's an overpay for Bregman. No, there is no overpay. You are paid what the market tells you. I don't buy that. If you think everything's an overpay, then get out of the business. And I think it's Andrew Friedman that once said, like, if you think, basically, I'm paraphrasing, if you think every free agent's an overpay, you'll never get one. You will never get one because by definition, you're paying guys in their 30s where they should probably be paid in their 20s. But look, Alex Bregman is championship level, player. Like Jed wanted him. Craig Counsell wanted him, no matter what his declining skills might be in a few years. So there is no overpay. You are paid what the market tells you. And granted, that salary might eat up your payroll and future moves might be hurt by it. But all I know is the Red Sox have that much better of a chance of getting to the playoffs than the Cubs do today. And you just got to live with it.
Are all the other owners going to band together? I could see the guy on the south side. This is the kind of cause he likes to champion. Are they going to address this deferral stuff in the next CBA? Something tells me this is the smaller teams have to be at some point. They're going to cry about it, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, yes. The answer is yes. But the smaller market teams have a lot to cry about. The revenues the Dodgers are bringing in, even the Yankees are bringing in. It continues to grow exponentially compared to the smaller markets. There's a whole host of things. I mean, if there was a salary cap, but with deferrals, maybe the smaller markets would live with that. Although that's an obvious way around a salary cap, right? We'll pay you $5 million now and $30 million in 10 years. The point is, the whole economic system will be reexamined once again after the 2026 season, and maybe even more so, maybe in a tipping point kind of way. And we've said this before, but it does feel like we are really headed towards, okay, this has to be reformed in some manner, and it could be the salary cap, could be deferrals being eliminated, whatever it is. But yes, the short answer is all these things are going to be addressed because it certainly feels like it's becoming ridiculous. But I'm sure people in the 90s, 80s thought Steinbrenner's Yankees were becoming ridiculous, and the system didn't really change.
They
that
did.
much.
People did. You're right, Jess. The inequities here, though, in baseball, it's unrivaled across the other sports. Now, I don't know that they'll ever get to a salary cap. I've heard there's no way the players will ever accept a salary cap. The other sports have them. The other sports also, in fairness, if I were going to maybe slightly defend baseball owners just a little bit, there are more expenses, obviously. You're supporting minor leagues and you're supporting Latin America and players and systems and different things that you have that the NFL and the NBA and the NHL don't have to. Maybe the NHL a little bit with how much their minor league system spread out. But, I get it. There are some more financial challenges. But no other sport has this problem, Jess, with these. It's completely and totally out of whack from the top to the bottom. Completely and totally unlike any other sport.
Yeah, and the stars are mostly congregating on a few teams. That's unlike other sports. And look, I'm trying to write a story on how much it does cost to run an organization because I think you're right. There's some more costs, but that's going to be debatable. What's not debatable is the fact that the Dodgers and Yankees bring in more money than the Rays and the Guardians. That we can't debate. Like that, the bigger markets bring in more money.
But again, let me just jump in real quick with something like that, and I guess that's maybe what I was sort of hinting at. Like, I'm assuming the Knicks and the Lakers bring in more money than the Cavaliers, but the Cavaliers have the best record or the second best record in the Eastern Conference, or the best record in the Eastern Conference.
Well, that's why salary cap works.
Well, exactly, and that's kind of what I mean. Like, in no other sport do we see this disparity, and I hear what you're saying. The inequities, though, are so gross; they're so over the top. I don't know how baseball ultimately fixes this. I'm not sure, but it doesn't exist in the other sports.
Yeah, and what I mean by bringing up the Guardian, like people will say, well, the Guardians still make a lot of money. If you want to believe that, and they might because they don't open their books. But whatever the Guardians make, it certainly isn't the same as the Dodgers or Yankees.
That's true.
Those teams, and it's not because the Dodgers or Yankees are better run that they make more money, right? It's just they are bigger markets that bring in more revenue. It's what I always, I use this as a stupid analogy, like a lawyer in Kansas City is going to make more in New York, but the cost of living is different. So it fits where a free agent is going to ask for the same in New York as he would Kansas City. And so, of course, he's going to gravitate to New York because they're able to pay him more. So the cost of living thing doesn't apply to a free agent, but it might apply to a regular person that lives in one of those cities. So yeah, it feels like this is all coming to head. But here's the thing with the Cubs: like you're owning a team in a big market, you are bringing in a lot of money. Do you want to play in the deep end with the Dodgers and Yankees and Mets or not, and Red Sox? And the Cubs choose to be somewhere in the middle because they won't operate at a loss in any given year. And, what's debatable is how much to bring in. They say not as much from Marquee, not as much since COVID, but then Cap keeps telling me it was full every night. So, I don't know.
So they obviously don't have a hole at third base because they've got Matt Shaw, but what other moves could they possibly make here, before the start of the season?
Well, it's interesting, Adam, because when they missed out on Tanner Scott, it's not like they took that money and got the next best closer on the market. They traded for Presley and made Houston pick up some money. Here, same thing. They don't get Bregman, so it's not like they have the 30. You would think they'd have the $30 million to spend elsewhere, but that's not how it works. Jed said it. We'll spend the $30 million on Bregman. He didn't say it in these words, but paraphrasing. We'll spend the $30 million on Bregman, but we're not going to take that $30 million and spend it elsewhere just because we didn't spend it there. There are exceptions to the rules, and Bregman, in their case, just sort of like Bellinger late, was an exception. He was on their radar late. He was still available on February 12th, and so they went after him because of the opening at third base. So, yeah, they're not taking that money and reallocating it. They might in July, but Matt Shaw is going to be the opening day third baseman, in my opinion. Maybe they bring him a backup. There's two out there, Justin Turner and Paul DeYoung. Turner is more likely than DeYoung. Turner's 40 years old, but he plays first and third, and they want to back up at both those positions. DeYoung doesn't play first. But think about that. They're going to go from a Bregman who's kind of still in his prime, not the best year last year, to Bregman or to DeYoung or Justin Turner. I mean, that's the drop-off. But they'd be backups, and I think Turner's the leader for that. Bottom line is this infield is going to Shaw, Swanson, Horner, and Bush. It's a smallish infield, still can generate some power there, but they really need their big guys, Happ, Tucker, Suzuki, to really come through. Swanson is considered a power hitter because it's an undersized infield. Now, Bush hit homers. Shaw will hit some, but it's no guarantee they're going to be 20-plus homer guys. So their big guys really need to come through. I mean, if Tucker has a MVP caliber season like we think he could, that's going to go a long way to this offense having success.
Yeah, that's true. There's not a ton of slug, I guess, maybe forecasted out of that infield. So it's a good point. Something to track. Good work on the story last night, Jess. Thanks for joining us, all right?
You got it, guys. Take care.
Right, we'll see you later. There's Jesse Rogers.